Hey there! Starting out the live today with a silly butterfly freckle face. I'm not sure what the obsession lately is with freckles, but freckles are on all the models and in all the magazines, and it's kind of hilarious because when I was a kid, nobody wanted freckles. Anyway, they're super cute, so I thought I'd start out with some beautiful butterflies and freckles before we get started. Just trying to figure out all the fun stuff about working with Facebook Live. So trying out the butterfly freckle face filter was a good place to start. So I'll just tell you who I am before I shut my freckles off and put on my old serious regular face. I'm Bernadette Mack, and I am a coach and consultant for nonprofit leaders. And I help nonprofit leaders like executive directors and CEOs do their very best work and avoid that dreaded burnout, which affects so many people. So I'm going to shut off my funny freckles, even though they're so cute. All right, there's regular old me. All right, so before we get started talking today, we were supposed to be talking about morale and focus and motivation for nonprofit teams, but it really could be for any teams. And I just wanted to also tell you that today I jumped into this challenge that I saw on LinkedIn. It's like an 8-day challenge. It started yesterday, and so now I'm 2 days in. And I just have to tell you, there's like 8 things you have to do, and one of them is running 8K every day, which I run, but 8K is kind of a lot for 8 days in a row. So anyway, I'm on day 2, and so I'm totally exhausted already. It's noon East. But anyway, so let's dig into our topic. I think I can see who's on, and I think I might actually be able to see comments this time, which is amazing. So I ask you to please chip in, because I want to hear from you about what you're seeing with your teams that you volunteer for, that you work for in nonprofit, that maybe there's some signs that morale is a little bit low, or that the focus and the motivation that people are feeling just really isn't there. They've kind of lost their mojo. And so, like I said, we're talking about morale and motivation in nonprofit teams, but really it could apply to just about any team. I think that since people have been working from home, one of the big things is that things like morale and motivation are kind of hard to monitor and also to make changes about. There's no more water cooler discussions, like people aren't just, passing by each other's desks and, maybe throwing some questions by them, doing any kind of soundboarding or, spitballing, the usual kind of office things that you can just get up and go and talk to somebody and have a short conversation and go on with your day, or even just like personal things. There are tons of incidental encounters that were built into that, working in an office setting provided, which most people, I think, even today with tons of normally people are remote. I'm saying it's more normal. That's what I'm trying to say. It's more normal today that there are teams that are remote. However, most teams are probably still in an office setting. So without the office setting and without those incidental encounters and the things that are built into your day, you didn't ever have to be intentional about having relationships with people and just having conversations and feeling part of a team, like physically. And even if those people on your team weren't necessarily your friends, like you don't do things outside of work, just being part of a physical team in a place has a lot of value. And so now that most teams, like almost everybody I know, is remote, everything you're doing is on phone and video, it can really affect the way that people work with each other. I mean, there's tons of technology and people are amazingly getting around, making connections with people, and there, all kinds of things happen. That has been remarkable during this time. However, it can really affect the way that people work together and also treat each other. And over time, it kind of starts to chip away. Maybe at the beginning of this, you had a lot of enthusiasm and everybody was all in on trying to connect remotely. And over that time, things have dwindled. And plus, people are living regular lives in a pandemic and all of the other things that have been going on in 2020. And so there's tons more stress, there's kids at home, there's all that stuff that, maybe the workplace would have been like an escape almost. Sometimes you can go there to do your work and be with the people that you do the work with and have those relationships and then come back and do your life. And that just really doesn't happen anymore. So that starts to affect morale too. And the idea of this week's topic really came up. And Nan says, I miss being on a physical team. Totally, Nan. It really stinks. And even somebody like me, I really love to work independently. I get a lot of things done when I'm, in the zone, and I don't like to be interrupted because a lot of the things I'm doing are writing. And so once you get sort of into a flow with that, you don't want to be disrupted with someone stopping by your office or whatever. However, over time, it really starts to wear on you when you don't have those ways to get out and be with people. Because although I like working alone to do the bulk of my important work, I really get a lot of energy and just ideas and everything from being with people and just talking about things and just being physically near them. So I totally feel you on that, Nan. It's such a thing, and the video, it doesn't really cut it for me anyway, but I'm trying. Anyway, so if anybody's on that wants to just put up a note about, let me see if I can see more of them. All right. If you want to just put up a note about what maybe you're seeing in your organizations that is an indication to you that morale is kind of low, or that people's focus or motivation is kind of slipping over time. What are you seeing, or what are you doing in your organizations to try to combat that? I mean, I know that at this time of year especially, people are used to people bringing in food to a break room to share, or bringing gifts to each other, or even there is no more leftover Halloween candy to go grab at 3:00. All that kind of stuff has gone away. So what are you doing for teams remotely now? Or what were you planning to do? Or to try to get people to feel that same sense of belonging and just camaraderie with each other through some of those old things that we used to do. What are you doing now? So if anybody can put up ideas of what they're doing or what they're seeing, I'm going to keep going and I'll keep on checking back, because now I can see comments. I'm so proud of myself. I don't know if I did something or just now it's different, but anyway, I'm going to keep on going. So it's been a roller coaster all year for people, and there's just not really been that same escape or usual support that people have. And the second thing that we're talking about is motivation and focus. And I don't mean focus I need to make sure that my team members are not on Twitter or checking their Facebook or whatever throughout the day. That's not the kind of focus that I'm talking about. I'm talking about organizational focus. So, things like, what are we doing here? How has what we're doing here changed or stayed the same over this last year? Why are we doing what we're doing? And what have we stopped doing or had to stop doing in order to stay in business or to stay relevant or to meet different needs or new needs that came up over this year. So what I'm asking is, asking your team or as a team thinking about, what do the past 9 months have to tell us about how we ought to be moving forward with our organization? Because I have a feeling that for most people, staying the same is not really an option. And I don't just mean, with your work from home situation. Even if we go back to offices eventually, there's a high probability that in nonprofits, your focus has shifted in some way, shape, or form. And so gaining that organizational focus back, and not just focusing back on what we used to do, getting back to normal or whatever that is that everyone seems to want to do. What has happened that is now new? What are we actually doing here? What has this last 9 months shown us? How can we decide how to move forward based on everything that we've seen, how we've had to shift, new needs that have emerged, other things that we could put away because they aren't relevant anymore? How have we had to get more efficient in order to stay afloat? Like, what are those good things that we can keep continuing on? And so those are really big picture questions, which are always the questions that I like to think about, like, what's the big picture? So you can figure out all of the nitty gritty for your organization that goes, below that. But what are these big picture questions? There are so many unknowns right now. And the truth is, there have always been this many unknowns. It's just that we haven't had them always thrown in our face so much. So everything has always been unknown. Everything has always been up in the air. We just didn't know it. We thought we could control it. And now it's being shown to us that, anything can change on a dime at any time. And that's not to be, fearful, but just to say, like, we always have the opportunity to try to learn from what's happening. Even if we have a tendency to sort of, put our head down and try to press on and just keep on going after whatever our goals were for this year. I've heard from a lot of nonprofits that, yeah, we're going to make our goals this year. We're actually going to do better than we thought. But I bet you there are different circumstances around that. And so what are the lessons that we need to learn from this with regard to focus and motivation for our organizations? And what lessons can we learn even if we're super resistant to making changes? There are lessons to be learned, and we don't want to waste a perfectly good pandemic. So morale, we talked about first, and focus and motivation second. And one of the things that I'm suggesting is that we tackle both of these things with your team by taking them through. This is a perfect time to take them through a review of your mission, vision, and values. And the reason why this is important is because it's a really good team building activity. I mean, I know that people are trying to set up things for people to do with their teams, like, different activities that are a little bit more socially based, but like, how many Zoom happy hours can we really have? So how can you have something that's constructive and useful for your organization, but then also really, really team building and bonding for your team members? And so taking them through the mission, vision, values work can do both of those things. And the reason why it's important for team building and for that morale piece is that you're asking your group to spend time on reflection, which especially in small nonprofits, there's not always the luxury of time to really reflect on what's happening or what has happened, or where you really actually need to go. And so taking that time for reflection, asking people for their input, and letting them be heard and also hear from each other is really, really valuable. And as far as your organizational focus, clarifying what your priorities need to be now, and galvanizing everybody around a common focus is another thing that can come out of going through this work. And it may be that the work that you're doing is really hard, and it's not going to get any less hard going forward. But if you have a greater sense of team and you feel motivated and you have support and morale even when you're working apart, it makes that hard work even more bearable. So even if you don't think that your mission and vision and values has changed throughout this time, or from your point of view, it can't change. It's the way it is. Your organization was set up for these certain specific missions and with this certain vision in mind, and it cannot be changed. It's still valuable to go through this process, taking the time to review it. It'll get people talking, generating ideas that you as the leader might not have ever thought of before, and relating to one another. And there are ways to do this that are really constructive and meaningful, and it's not meant to be a session where people come and bring their complaints. No, it's a session where people are going, oh, hi Philomena. I can see comments now. So anyway, it's a session where you're taking them through step by step, going through your mission and vision and values, and maybe you're not even starting with what you have now, but starting from scratch. One of the things that I loved to ask people on my team was, if we were starting this organization today and it didn't exist before, how would we set it up? What would be our priorities, and what would we be doing, and what would we be spending our time on, and how would we organize it? So rather than relying on what we've inherited in this organization and the way things have always been done and what we think we're here to do, if we were in a completely new universe and we were starting over today, how would we design this organization? And just start from there. Maybe you don't ever do any of the things that you're saying, but it's the process of going through that idea generation and bringing to light new ideas. It can really turn things around when it comes to motivation and focus. So I'm losing my motivation and focus because I'm reading comments, which I'm so excited to see this time. And Philomena says, fantastic question, Bern. Thanks. So anyway, I just want to tell you before we sign off that on Friday we have another workshop, and this one is all about how to take your teams through mission, vision, and values work. I have a great 12-page workbook that you'll get along with that, and we'll go step by step through how to do this work in an organized and easy, simple way with your teams, to bring people together and really talk about ideas and priorities and get yourself set up with a clear sense of team and a clear sense of purpose and a common sense of purpose, and also a real strong focus on what the priorities need to be for next year. And maybe your goals are already set for next year, and that's okay. You can figure out how to get to those goals by really setting your priorities, and that doesn't mean it's what we've always done. If there's ever been a time to look at things outside of the lens of what we've always done, it's now, because we've had unprecedented amount of change and opportunities to reevaluate what's been happening. So Friday at noon, I will post, I'm just looking at my computer, I will post the details, obviously, but you can go to bernadetteMack.com/workshops to check out that workshop. and join us on Friday to go through the mission, vision, and values work. And you'll get amazing ideas and just a simple process for taking your team through this and giving them, not another virtual happy hour, but a really constructive and positive team building activity that will also help your organization a lot. So hope you'll join me on Friday, and thank you to all of you who have tuned in and put up comments. It's super exciting, and I'm gonna keep doing these lives because I stink at video, so the only way to get better is to keep practicing. So thanks so much for watching, and have a great rest of your week. Keep up the good work. Bye.